The scent of kerosene filled 8-year-old Adana's nostrils before she fully understood what was happening. She had been awakened by angry voices outside their modest compound, her father pleading, her mother's terrified screams cutting through the night. "Now you'll serve as an example," a cold voice announced. Adana recognized it immediately. Chitty, the general's son. At 25, he was known throughout the village for his cruelty, a shadow of his father's ruthless ambition. Through a crack in the window, Adana watched in horror as Chitty and his men splashed liquid around their home. Her little brother and sister were still asleep in the next room. Her parents' voices grew more desperate. "Please, there are children inside," her mother begged. Chitty's laugh was hollow, empty of humanity. The general doesn't leave loose ends. The first match struck with a hiss that seemed to stretch into eternity. The second and third followed in quick succession. Flames erupted with shocking speed, racing up the walls and licking at the thatched roof. Adana's lungs burned as smoke poured into the small house. She heard her father break through the men outside, rushing in to save his family. He reached her first, scooping her up and pushing her toward a small window at the back of the house. "Run, Adana! Don't look back!" He coughed violently, pushing her through the narrow opening. She fell to the ground outside, the heat of the flames singing her clothes and hair. Her father turned back into the inferno for her siblings. The last thing she saw was his silhouette disappearing into the wall of fire. The flames grew higher behind her, illuminating the night sky in a hellish glow. The men's shadows stretched long across the ground as they watched her family's home burn. Through her tears, Adana saw Chitty's satisfied smile as the roof began to collapse. "Hello, guys. Welcome to AfricanTales by Zion. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and most importantly, turn on the notification bell so you can get informed when I drop another amazing story. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. Do you think little Adana will survive this terrible night? Will she escape the general's men? Stay tuned to find out. Let's dive in. The Land Rover's wheels crunched over gravel as Adana Okafor, now known professionally as Amara Diallo, drove past a weathered sign that once welcomed visitors to her childhood village. 15 years had transformed the sleepy farming community into something unrecognizable. Concrete buildings and industrial structures had replaced thatched huts and marketplaces. The general's vision of progress had devoured her homeland. She adjusted her designer sunglasses and straightened the lapel of her tailored suit. The foreign-educated security consultant persona she crafted over the past decade was flawless. From her credentials at elite European security firms to the slight French accent she'd adopted to disguise her native dialect, today marked the culmination of years of planning. At 33, she returned not as a victim seeking sympathy, but as a professional whose expertise was sought by the very people who had destroyed her family. "Approaching checkpoint," she murmured, slowing as armed guards waved her toward a security gate that hadn't existed when she was a child. This was the first test of her new identity. Identification and purpose of visit demanded a guard whose uniform bore the insignia of Okoro Mining Corporation. Amara handed over her documents with practiced confidence. "Amara Diallo, security consultant. I have an appointment with Mr. Nwafor at the main facility." She gestured to the official letter on the passenger seat. "The company has hired my firm to conduct a comprehensive security assessment." The guard scrutinized her credentials before making a brief call. Moments later, he returned with a visitor's badge and a stiff nod. "Follow the main road to the administration building. Someone will meet you there." As she drove through the gates, memories flooded back. Playing with other children in fields that were now excavation pits, the marketplace where her mother had sold vegetables, now a processing plant. And somewhere not far from here, the remnants of her family home, burned to ashes at night 15 years ago. But she hadn't returned to reminisce. She returned for justice. The administration building gleamed with glass and steel, a monument to the wealth extracted from stolen land. Amara parked in the visitors' area and collected her briefcase, containing specialized security equipment, some standard, others modified for her true purpose. "Ms. Diallo?" A man approached as she entered the lobby. "I'm Emmanuel Nwafor, head of operations. Welcome to Okoro Mining. We're very pleased you could consult on our security upgrade. Amara offered firm handshake. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Nwafer. Your operation has quite the reputation. More than he knew. Please call me Manuel. Let me give you a tour before the briefing. As they walked through the facility, Emmanuel detailed the company's history, how General Okoro had revitalized the region after discovering rich mineral deposits, transforming a backward farming community into an economic powerhouse. And what are the original inhabitants? Amara asked casually, keeping her expression professionally curious. Emmanuel waved dismissively. Most were compensated and relocated. Those who adapted prospered. Those who resisted, he shrugged. Progress waits for no one. Amara noted how sanitized his version of history was. No mention of the forced evictions, the mysterious fires, the people who had disappeared. She'd spent years tracking these atrocities from abroad, building a dossier on the general and his son. Your primary focus will be our executive facilities and the main extraction site, Emmanuel continued. We had some incidents. Sabotage, we believe. Disgruntled former landowners? Amara suggested. Emmanuel's expression darkened. Perhaps. Or environmental activists. Either way, the general's son, Mr. Chidi Okoro, takes security very seriously. You'll meet him at tomorrow's briefing. Chidi Okoro. The name sent ice through her veins, but her face remained impassive. She prepared for this moment, rehearsed it countless times. The man who had struck the match, who had watched her family burn. I look forward to it, she replied smoothly. After the tour, Amara checked into the company guest house, a luxury that hadn't existed in the village of her childhood. Alone in her room, she unpacked specialized equipment disguised as standard security tools. Cameras with enhanced storage for gathering evidence, listening devices that could penetrate most barriers, and a satellite uplink to back up everything securely to servers abroad. A knock at her door interrupted her preparations. Sliding the equipment under a stack of papers, she answered to find a young man in a security uniform. Ms. Diallo, I'm Kofi, assigned to assist you during your stay. He was perhaps in his mid-20s, with watchful eyes that seemed to take in everything. If you need anything or have questions about the facility, I'm your man. Thank you, Kofi. She studied him, noting how his posture suggested military training, but his eyes held a wariness that spoke of something else. Have you worked for Okoro Mining long? 3 years, he replied. I know every corner of this operation. That could be very useful. She smiled professionally. I may have questions as I conduct my assessment. Things the management might not think to mention. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition of her meaning, perhaps. Yes, ma'am. There's always more to see than what's on the official tour. He lowered his voice slightly. If you're interested in a more comprehensive understanding of our operations, I'd be happy to provide context. An ally, perhaps? Or a test. She'd need to proceed carefully. I appreciate thoroughness, Kofi. Perhaps you could join me tomorrow as I begin my preliminary assessment. He nodded. I'll be at your disposal at 0800 hours. After he left, Amara returned to her equipment, thoughts racing. Tomorrow would bring her face to face with Chidi Okoro, the man who had destroyed her world. Everything hinged on maintaining her cover, while gathering the evidence needed to bring him and his father to justice. She moved to the window, looking out at the mining operation that had replaced her village. Somewhere in the distance was a plot where her family home had once stood, where she had last seen her parents and siblings, where her life had been shattered in flames. I've returned, she whispered to the ghosts of her past, and I will not leave until justice is done. Oh my God, is Adana's cover strong enough to fool Chidi? Will Kofi turn out to be friend or foe? If you're eager to see her come face to face with a man who destroyed her family, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment. Would you be brave enough to face your worst enemy? The next chapter shows Adana's first encounter with Chidi, and it'll leave you speechless. Share this video. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it. The morning sun had barely crested the horizon when Amara began her security assessment of the mining compound. With her professional-grade equipment and Kofi's assistance, she methodically surveyed the perimeter, noting vulnerabilities while covertly mapping the facility's layout. The company expanded aggressively 5 years ago, Kofi explained as they approached a section of newer buildings. Double the operation almost overnight after securing exclusive rights to the entire region. Exclusive rights? Amara asked, pretending to adjust her equipment while activating its secondary scanning function. Was there competition? Kofi's expression darkened. Not after what happened to Abayo Industries. They were the only other company with mining interests here. Their local office burned down, killing 3 executives. Official report called it an electrical failure. Amara noted the doubt in his voice. You don't sound convinced. He glanced around before responding. The fire happened 2 days after they outbid Okoro for a prime location. Strange coincidence. Fire. Always fire. Chidi Okoro's signature method hadn't changed. What about security breaches? She asked, redirecting the conversation. Mr. Nwafor mentioned sabotage. Started 6 months ago, Kofi confirmed. Equipment damaged, vehicles disabled. Small scale but persistent. Management blames environmental activists, but... He hesitated. But you have another theory? The timing coincides with the contamination of the village water supply downstream. Several children fell ill. 1 died. The company denied responsibility, but locals know the truth. Amara's equipment beeped, indicating it had completed its scan. The data would help her identify weak points in their security system. Information she could use both for her cover job and her true mission. Show me where the most recent incident occurred, she instructed. Kofi led her to an equipment shed near the extraction site. As they approached, Amara noticed they were being watched. A security camera had pivoted to track their movement. Someone was monitoring them specifically. Inside the shed, Amara examined the damaged machinery, while surreptitiously placing a miniature surveillance device in a shadowed corner. Who has access to this area? She asked. Maintenance staff, security, site managers. Kofi paused. And executives, of course. Including Chidi Okoro? Mr. Okoro inspects all facilities regularly. He's hands-on in his management style. The way Kofi said this suggested more than mere professional thoroughness. Tell me about him, Amara prompted, keeping her tone casually professional despite the rage smoldering beneath her composed exterior. He's a general's only son. Runs day-to-day operations while his father handles political connections. Kofi seemed to search for the right word. Intense. Demanding. People fear him more than they respect him. Before Amara could probe further, her phone buzzed with a message from Emmanuel Nwafor. Security briefing moved up. Chidi Okoro arriving early. Returned to administration immediately. Her pulse quickened. We're needed at the main building. The conference room hummed with nervous energy as executives arranged documents and straightened ties. Emmanuel Nwafor paced by the door, relief washing over his face when he saw Amara. Ms. Diallo, thank you for coming quickly. Mr. Okoro is already here. He lowered his voice. He rarely visits without warning. Your preliminary assessment report. Do you have anything to present? I can provide initial observations, she assured him, her mind racing. She hadn't expected to face Chidi so soon, but years of preparation had taught her to adapt. Though I prefer more time for a comprehensive analysis. Emmanuel nodded anxiously. Just emphasize your methodology and timeline. Mr. Okoro appreciates thoroughness, but expects immediate value. The door swung open and conversation ceased. Amara turned, and 15 years of buried memory crashed through her professional facade. Chidi Okoro had aged, but his eyes remained the same, cold, calculating, devoid of empathy. At 40, his frame had thickened, his face had hardened, but the cruel set of his mouth was unchanged from the night he'd watched her family burn. Mr. Nwafor, he addressed Emmanuel without acknowledging the others. I understand our security consultant has arrived. Emmanuel gestured toward Amara. Yes, sir. This is Amara Diallo from Sentinel Security Solutions. Ms. Diallo, this is Chidi Okoro, our chief executive. Amara extended her hand, her face a mask of professional courtesy. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Okoro. When their hands met, she felt nothing but cold determination. This man who had destroyed everything she loved now shook her hand, unaware of who stood before him. "French?" he inquired, noting her accent. "Senegalese French," she corrected smoothly, "though I've spent much of my career in Europe." He studied her with predatory assessment. "Your reputation precedes you. Your work with the Diamond Consortium in Sierra Leone was particularly impressive. The background identity she crafted over years had passed its first test. You've done your research. I never enter business relationships unprepared." His smile didn't reach his eyes, especially when security is concerned. The meeting proceeded with Amara presenting her preliminary findings, genuine security vulnerabilities she'd identified, interspersed with recommendations that would further her access to restricted areas. Throughout, Chitty watched her with unsettling intensity. "Your assessment seems thorough," he concluded after her presentation. "But I'm more concerned with the sabotage than perimeter weaknesses. Someone is targeting us specifically. I'd need to review the incident reports to offer insights," Amar replied. "You'll have them." He turned to Emmanuel. "Give Ms. Diallo complete access. All facilities, all reports." His gaze returned to Amara. "I want this resolved quickly and permanently." The meeting concluded, but as others filed out, Chitty called her back. "Ms. Diallo, a moment." Amara steeled herself, turning to face him. "Yes, Mr. Okoro? Have we met before? You seem familiar." Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her expression remained placid. "I don't believe so. I would remember meeting someone of your stature." He studied her face, searching. "Perhaps not. Still, I look forward to working closely with you." His emphasis on closely carried a subtle threat. "I take security very personally." "As do I," she replied evenly. "It's why I'm effective." After he left, she exhaled slowly, steadying herself. He sensed something, a ghost of recognition perhaps. She would need to be even more careful. That evening, Amara sat in her room analyzing the data she gathered. The security footage showed clear patterns of surveillance gaps she could exploit. The incident reports revealed something unexpected. The sabotage targeted specific equipment, machines used in areas of the mine that produced the highest grade but also generated the most toxic waste. A knock interrupted her concentration. Quickly securing her equipment, she opened the door to find Kofi, looking troubled. "May I speak with you privately?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. She ushered him in, checking the hallway before closing the door. "What's wrong?" "You asked about Chitty Okoro. There's something you should know." He swallowed hard. "After you met with him, he ordered a background check on you, beyond what was already done for your clearance." Amara's mind raced. That seems excessive for a consultant. "He's paranoid. But there's more." Kofi hesitated. "I overheard him speaking with security. He mentioned you reminded him of someone, a family from years ago. The Okafors. Her own family name." Ice spread through her veins. "Is that significant?" she asked carefully. Kofi's eyes met hers. "The Okafors opposed the general when mining first began. Their compound was burned with them inside. Official report called it an accident, but..." His voice dropped further. "My brother worked for them. He disappeared the same night." The revelation stunned her. Kofi had his own connection to that night, his own reason to seek truth. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Because you're not just conducting a security assessment." It wasn't a question. "Your interest in Chitty Okoro isn't professional. I've watched you today, the questions you ask, the areas you focus on." Amara weighed her options. Kofi could be an ally, or he could expose her. "What do you want, Kofi?" "The same thing as you." His voice hardened with conviction. "Truth. Justice. The Okoros have destroyed many lives, including my brother's. I took this job to find answers." She studied him, searching for deceit and finding only determination. "If you're caught helping me..." "I've been careful for 3 years." His expression was grim. "But I've never had access to the executive levels." "You do. A potential alliance, then." But trust came at a cost she couldn't yet calculate. "I need time to consider this," she told him. "And I'll need proof of your commitment." Tomorrow night, I can show you something, he offered. Evidence I've been gathering. After that, you can decide. After Kofi left, Amara secured her room, sweeping for surveillance devices before retrieving her satellite phone from its hiding place. She sent an encrypted update to her contact abroad. The trader who had found her that night and raised her, who had financed her education and training for this moment of reckoning. Phase 1 complete, she reported. Target engaged. Possible ally identified. Proceeding with caution. She ended the transmission and moved to the window, looking out at the compound illuminated by floodlights. Somewhere in that complex, Chidi Okoro reviewed her background, perhaps already suspicious. The memory of her face from 15 years ago was a child's face, changed by time, trauma, and deliberate alteration. But would it be enough? Tomorrow would bring her deeper into the lion's den. She would need to balance gathering evidence with maintaining her cover. And now there was Kofi, a potential ally with his own vendetta. Could she trust him? Did she have a choice? The mission had become more complicated, but her resolve remained unshaken. For her parents, for her siblings, for justice long denied. Is Kofi telling the truth, or leading Amara into a trap? Can she maintain her disguise when Chidi already suspects something? If this is making your heart race, smash that like button, and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment. Would you trust Kofi with your secrets? Next chapter reveals a shocking discovery that changes everything. Share this video and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. The abandoned storage facility stood at the edge of the mining compound, its weathered exterior betraying none of the secrets Kofi had promised. As Amara followed him through the darkness, her hand remained close to the concealed weapon in her jacket. Trust was a luxury she couldn't yet afford. Few people come here anymore, Kofi explained, using his security credentials to bypass a rusted door. Old equipment, outdated records. Nothing valuable. Except the truth, Amara murmured. Inside, Kofi led her past shelves of forgotten machinery to a section of wall that appeared unremarkable. He pressed against the panel, revealing a hidden compartment containing a weathered metal box. 3 years of patience, he said, placing the box on a dusty table. Small pieces of evidence. Nothing enough by itself, but together. He opened the lid, revealing folders, USB drives, and photographs. Amara examined the contents with growing realization. Kofi had meticulously documented patterns of corruption, intimidation, and violence, all pointing to Chidi Okoro and his father. Worker accidents covered up, environmental violations hidden, land seizures enforced through intimidation. This one, Kofi said, pulling out a yellowed newspaper clipping, mentions the fire that killed the Okafor family. Seeing her family's tragedy reduced to 3 paragraphs of sanitized reporting sent a chill through her. Electrical fire, the report claimed. No mention of the kerosene. No mention of Chidi Okoro. And this, Kofi continued, revealing a list of names, is everyone who disappeared around that time. My brother, Adebayo, the village teacher who spoke against the mining, the elder who refused to sign over communal land. Amara's eyes scanned the list. 15 names. 15 lives erased to secure the general's empire. Why are you showing me this? She asked, though she already knew. Kofi's eyes hardened. Because you're not Amara Diallo. Not originally. She tensed, ready to reach for her weapon. I don't know who you really are, he continued. But you're here for something beyond a security assessment. The way you look at Chidi Okoro, that's not professional interest. That's hatred. You're observant, she acknowledged, neither confirming nor denying. I don't need to know your real identity, Kofi assured her. But if you're here to expose the Okoros, we should work together. Amara weighed her options. The evidence Kofi had gathered could accelerate her mission, but partnership brought risk. Yet standing alone against the Okoros had its own dangers. What do you propose? She asked. Divide the work. I can access areas you can't without raising suspicion. You have legitimate reasons to request documents, interview personnel, inspect secure facilities. It made strategic sense. And if I'm caught, I'll deny any knowledge. And if I'm caught, the same, she finished. Plausible deniability. the foundation of reluctant alliances. Tomorrow, Kofi said, Chidi Okoro is conducting a security review of his private compound. He's requested your presence. This was an opportunity and a challenge. Direct access to Chidi's personal space could yield valuable evidence and bring her face to face with a man who had destroyed her family. One last thing. Kofi hesitated, then pulled out a faded photograph. This was my brother's, found among his things after he disappeared. Amara's breath caught. It was a village gathering from nearly 20 years ago, and there, among the families, was her own, her father standing proud, her mother with a gentle smile, herself as a small child, and her siblings, the Okafors, before fire consumed their world. I thought you might want to see it, Kofi said simply. Amara stared at the image of her lost family, composure momentarily fractured by unexpected grief. When she looked up, something in Kofi's expression had changed, a flash of recognition, quickly masked. We should go, she said, her professional demeanor returning. Separately, as they secured the evidence and prepared to leave, Amara knew a threshold had been crossed. In Kofi, she had found a possible ally, but had she also revealed too much of herself? The next morning, a company car delivered Amara to Chidi Okoro's private compound, a walled estate set apart from the mining operation, surrounded by manicured gardens that seemed to mock the arid landscape beyond its boundaries. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, while surveillance cameras tracked her approach. Chidi himself greeted her at the entrance, his expensive suit and confident posture projecting the image of a successful businessman rather than a ruthless enforcer. Ms. Diallo, he welcomed her with practiced charm. Thank you for accommodating my schedule. Security at my residence is as important as at the mine. Of course, she replied, maintaining her professional composure despite the turmoil beneath. Standing before her family's murderer in his sanctuary required every ounce of her control. Comprehensive security leaves no vulnerabilities. Precisely. He gestured for her to follow. Please, allow me to show you the grounds. The tour revealed a fortress disguised as a luxury estate. Advanced surveillance systems, reinforced entry points, panic rooms, and escape tunnels. Chidi Okoro was a man who expected enemies. Impressive, Amara noted, documenting weaknesses while appearing to admire the strengths. Though your northern perimeter relies heavily on technological solutions rather than physical barriers. You have a good eye, he conceded. Few consultants identify that immediately. Security is about thinking like those who would breach it, she explained, finding the path they would take. Something in her words seemed to intrigue him. And what path would you take, Ms. Diallo, if you wanted to reach me? The question carried dual meaning, a professional challenge layered with personal assessment. I wouldn't approach from the outside, she answered truthfully. I'd become someone you invited in. A smile played at his lips. Hence my careful vetting of all who enter my circle. A wise precaution. They continued to his private office, where Amara noticed photographs of Chidi with political figures, military leaders, and international businessmen, a visual testament to his connections and influence. You built quite a network, she observed, necessary for my future plans. He indicated a campaign poster leaning against the wall. Chidi Okoro for regional governor. I'm following my father's footsteps, from business to politics. Your father must be proud. The general understands power and its applications. Chidi's expression hardened momentarily. He taught me that decisive action, however difficult, is necessary for progress. Decisive action. A sanitized description of the brutality she had witnessed. As they examined his communication systems, Amara noticed a distinctive scar on Chidi's right hand, a burn mark, poorly healed. The sight of it triggered a flash of memory. That same hand holding the match that had ignited her family's home. An old injury? She inquired casually. Chidi glanced at his scarred hand. From my younger days. A reminder that fire, while effective, can be unpredictable. His eyes met hers with unsettling intensity. Have you ever been burned, Ms. Diallo? The double meaning was unmistakable. Was it a test? Did he suspect? Everyone gets burned eventually, she replied evenly. The key is learning from experience. His study of her lingered uncomfortably before he nodded. Indeed. The remainder of the inspection proceeded with professional detachment, though Amara felt Chitty's eyes on her constantly, assessing, questioning, perhaps remembering. When they reached the secure communications room, she placed a miniature surveillance device disguised as a standard security sensor, explaining it as an access monitoring tool. This will help identify unauthorized entry patterns, she explained, while activating its true purpose, intercepting and recording Chitty's communications. Your thoroughness impresses me, he remarked. Most consultants focus solely on physical breaches. The most dangerous vulnerabilities are often invisible, she replied. After completing the assessment, they returned to his office where a house servant had prepared refreshments. As Amara reviewed her notes, Chitty settled behind his desk. Your preliminary report suggests numerous improvements, he observed. Yet you haven't mentioned the most obvious vulnerability. She looked up, questioning. Me, he clarified. If someone truly wanted to harm my interests, I would be the primary target. Personal security wasn't part of my assigned scope. Amara responded carefully. Perhaps it should be. He leaned forward. I've reviewed your credentials extensively, Ms. Diallo. Your expertise in executive protection is particularly noted. I'd like to engage your services on a more personal basis. The proposition was unexpected and dangerous. Closer proximity would grant greater access, but increase the risk of exposure. I typically complete existing contracts before considering new ones, she hedged. This wouldn't be a new contract, merely an expansion of our current arrangement. His tone made it clear this wasn't truly a request. You would remain at the compound, focusing on my security detail, while overseeing the broader implementation. A trap? An opportunity? Perhaps both. I would need to consult with my firm, she replied, buying time. Of course. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Though I'm confident we can come to an arrangement beneficial to all parties. As they concluded the meeting, a woman entered the office, elegant, reserved, with eyes that held a carefully masked wariness. Chitty, I didn't realize you had a visitor. My wife, Chitty introduced with perfunctory politeness. This is Amara Diallo, our security consultant. Offered a graceful handshake. How unusual. My husband rarely brings work associates to our home. Ms. Diallo has unique expertise, Chitty explained. I'm considering a more permanent arrangement. Something flickered across Mai's expression. Concern? Warning? It vanished too quickly for Amara to interpret. Then we may be seeing more of each other, Mai noted. Perhaps you'll join us for dinner sometime, Ms. Diallo. The invitation seemed genuine, unlike her husband's calculated overtures. That would be my pleasure, Amara responded, sensing a potential avenue of information. Chitty might guard his secrets, but what did his wife know? As Amara prepared to leave, Chitty walked her to the waiting car. One last question, Ms. Diallo. Have you ever been to this region before? The directness of the inquiry confirmed her suspicions. He was probing for connections to her past. Only through research, she lied smoothly, though it feels strangely familiar. Perhaps some places carry echoes of others we've known. He studied her face with uncomfortable intensity. Perhaps. I look forward to your detailed recommendations and your decision regarding my offer. That evening, as Amara encrypted her findings from the day, her secure phone buzzed with a message from Kofi. Urgent. Compromised. Destroy evidence. Her instincts flared, gathering only essential equipment. She erased all digital traces from her room's devices and prepared to move locations. But before she could leave, a sharp knock came at her door. Weapon ready, she approached cautiously. Who is it? Security, came the response. Mr. Okoro has requested an immediate meeting. At night, after Kofi's warning, the timing was too suspicious. I'll be there shortly, she called, while accessing the emergency exit route she'd identified upon arrival, a service corridor accessible through the bathroom window. Before she could move, her phone buzzed again. A single message from an unknown number. He knows who you are. Run. Mai? Had Chitty's wife somehow learned her identity? The pounding at the door grew more insistent. Ms. Diallo, open immediately. No more time. grabbing her essential equipment and the encrypted evidence. Amara slipped through the bathroom window into the service corridor just as she heard her room door crash open. As she navigated the darkened pathway toward the compound's perimeter, a figure emerged from the shadows ahead. She raised her weapon, only to recognize Kofi, bloody but mobile. "They found my collection," he gasped. "Interrogated me. I revealed nothing, but they'll assume we're working together. We need to relocate," she decided quickly. "I have a contingency." "There's something else," Kofi added, his expression grave. "When they questioned me, Chidi Okoro asked specifically if I knew anything about an Okafor survivor. He suspects who you really are." The confirmation sent ice through her veins. Her cover was compromised, but how much did Chidi actually know? As they hurried toward the compound's least guarded section, alarms began blaring behind them. The hunt had begun. "If we separate, we have better odds," Kofi suggested. "No," Amara countered. "That's what they expect. Together, we have complementary knowledge of the terrain and security protocols." They navigated through blind spots in the surveillance system that Amara had mapped during her assessment. Just as they reached the perimeter fence, floodlights blazed alive, illuminating them in harsh white light. "Security breached Sector 7. Announce a mechanized voice over loudspeakers. All personnel respond." "This way," Kofi urged, leading her toward a maintenance access point. Underground drainage system. It runs beyond the compound. As they pried open the access grate, gunfire erupted nearby. Security forces were closing in. Kofi lowered himself into the drainage tunnel, with Amara following close behind. They replaced the grate just as guards rounded the corner. In the dank darkness of the tunnel, they moved as quickly as the confined space allowed, guided by the weak light of Amara's phone. After what seemed like hours, they emerged beyond the compound's boundaries, into the scrubland that had once been fertile village fields. "We need to reach town," Kofi whispered. "I have contacts who can hide us." Amara checked her satellite phone. "Still secure, still connected. I have resources too. But first, we need distance." As they moved through the night, a new reality settled over Amara. Her carefully constructed identity had been compromised. 15 years of planning had accelerated into desperate improvisation. Yet in some ways, the simplified matters. No more pretense. No more deception. Chidi Okoro now knew an Okafor had survived. He would soon discover which one. And then the true confrontation would begin, not between security consultant and client, but between victim and perpetrator, between justice and injustice. The game had changed, but her mission remained. Evidence gathered, allies secured. The path to justice narrowed, but did not disappear. "What now?" Kofi asked as they paused on a ridge overlooking the distant lights of the mining compound. "Now," Amara replied, her voice hardening with resolve. "We stop hiding and start hunting." Chidi knows Amara's secret. Will she and Kofi escape, or will the general's men track them down? If you're on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment. What would you do in Amara's position now? The next chapter reveals a shocking betrayal that will leave you speechless. Share this video. Turn on notifications to find out what happens next. The abandoned church on the outskirts of town had long since lost its congregation, but provided the sanctuary Amara and Kofi desperately needed. Crumbling walls and boarded windows concealed them from the search parties that swarmed the region since their escape 3 days ago. Amara winced as she changed the crude bandage on Kofi's arm. A bullet grazed from a close encounter with Okoro's security forces the previous night. "The bleeding has stopped," she observed, "but we need proper medical supplies." Kofi managed a grim smile. "Proper anything would be nice. Food, water, communications." He glanced at her satellite phone. "Its battery now dead. Your mysterious contact hasn't exactly rushed to our aid." "He will," Amara assured him, though doubt gnawed at her. The traitor who had rescued her as a child, who had educated her abroad and financed her return, had contingency plans for emergencies. But each passing hour diminished their options. She moved to the church's broken window, carefully peering through a gap in the boards. Roadblocks remained on every major route. Okoro mining security vehicles patrolled alongside police, the distinction between corporate and government authority non-existent in a region where the general's influence reigned supreme. "They're calling us industrial saboteurs," Kofi noted, referring to the radio broadcast they'd overheard. "Terrorists threatening economic stability." No mention of their own crimes, of course. "Controlling the narrative is part of their power," Amara replied. "They've been doing it for decades." Kofi studied her with renewed curiosity. "You never told me who you really are, though I have my suspicions." She turned to face him. Trust was no longer a luxury but a necessity. "My name is Adana Okafor. My family died in a fire set by Chidi Okoro 15 years ago. Except I survived." Recognition dawned in Kofi's eyes. The village leader's daughter. The family that opposed the mining operation. The family that stood for justice, she corrected. "My father believed in protecting our heritage, our land. He died for that belief, along with my mother and siblings. And you returned for vengeance." "For justice," she clarified. "Vengeance would be simpler. A bullet, a blade. Justice requires evidence, exposure, accountability. The Okoros must face what they've done, not just to my family, but to everyone they've destroyed." Kofi nodded slowly. "That's why you became a security consultant, to gain access." 15 years of preparation, she confirmed. Language training, technical education, identity crafting. Everything to create Amara Diallo, a security professional with credentials that even the paranoid Chidi Okoro would trust. And now, Amara's gaze hardened. "Now we adapt. We still have the evidence you collected, plus what I gathered during my assessment. Not enough for international prosecution, but enough to interest journalists I've cultivated as contacts." "Journalists won't matter if we don't survive to reach them," Kofi pointed out. A sudden noise outside interrupted their conversation. Approaching vehicles. They moved silently to defensive positions, weapons ready. Through the boards, Amara counted 3 SUVs stopping at the abandoned church entrance. "They've found us," she whispered. But instead of security forces, a solitary figure emerged from the lead vehicle, a woman in elegant attire, incongruous against the desolate surroundings. "My Okoro," Kofi identified, surprise evident in his voice. "Chidi's wife." "Alone?" Amara questioned, suspicious of a trap. Not security with her. Personal staff only. Amara made a quick decision. "Cover me. If anything seems wrong, get out through the back." Before Kofi could protest, she moved toward the church's side entrance, positioning herself to observe without being immediately visible. My Okoro approached the dilapidated building with cautious determination. "Amara Diallo," she called, "or whatever your real name is. I know you're here. I've come alone. Well, as alone as someone in my position can be." Amara remained silent, assessing. "I'm not here on my husband's behalf," Mike continued. "Quite the opposite. I have information you need, and possibly a way out of this region." After a calculated pause, Amara emerged partially from the shadows, weapon visible but not aimed. "That's close enough, Mrs. Okoro. Forgive me if I don't take your appearance at face value." Mike stopped, showing empty hands. "Reasonable caution. I sent you the warning message from the compound. He knows who you are. Run. Remember? Why would Chidi Okoro's wife help those opposing him?" A bitter smile crossed Mai's face. "You're not the only one with reasons to see justice done. My marriage was arranged to strengthen business connections between families. I've spent 7 years watching Chidi destroy lives while I maintain a perfect facade of supportive wife." Her composure slipped momentarily. 7 years of complicity through silence. "And now you found your conscience?" Amara challenged. "Now I found an opportunity," Mike corrected. "When I realized that you must be an Okafor survivor, I knew this might be the only chance to break the Okoro's hold on this region." Kofi had joined Amara, his own weapon ready. "How did you find us?" "I have my own sources among the staff. People who remember what this place was before the Okoros. People who've lost family members." My reached slowly into her bag, withdrawing a portable drive. This contained security footage from our home, including Chidi's private conversations about eliminating problems, both past and present. Amara made no move to take it. Why not go to authorities yourself? What authorities? My laugh without humor. Local police? Owned by the general. Regional government? The same. National agencies? They see the mining operation as too economically valuable to disrupt. She extended the drive further. But you have foreign connections. Journalists. Perhaps even international courts. The calculation made sense, yet Amara remained wary. What do you want in exchange? Immunity when this breaks open. And I hesitated. Acknowledgement that I helped. My family should know I finally chose the right side. Slowly, Amara accepted the drive. If this is genuine. It is. But that's not all I came to tell you. My glance back toward her vehicles nervously. Chitty has taken a hostage to draw you out. Your associate from a mining operation, the security guard. Amara and Kofi exchanged confused looks. But he's not you? I clarified, looking at Kofi. Another guard, younger. Chitty believes you were working with him. Understanding dawned on Amara. Dakarai. He assisted with some of my equipment installations. Innocent, then? I asked. Completely. He knew nothing of our true purpose. That won't matter to Chitty. He's holding him at the old processing facility. The interrogation has already begun. Mai's expression darkened. Chitty's methods are medieval. Amara processed this development rapidly. An innocent man suffering because of her mission complicated matters morally, but also created a ticking clock. There's something else, Mai continued, her voice lowering. Something about the night your family died. Something you should know. Amara tensed. What about it? It wasn't supposed to happen that way. Mai's words came faster now, as though she'd held them back too long. The fire was meant as intimidation only. Burn the outbuildings. Frighten your father into compliance. But Chitty, she swallowed hard. Chitty was angry that night. Drunk. Out of control. When your father still refused to back down, Chitty escalated without authorization. Even the general was shocked by the outcome. The revelation struck Amara like a physical blow. The calculated terrorism she had imagined all these years had an element of chaotic cruelty. Chitty's personal rage claiming her family. How do you know this? She demanded. Chitty told me himself years ago when I questioned certain methods. He offered it as a cautionary tale, how excessive force created complications, your survival being chief among them, though he believed you perished overseas until recently. The information altered nothing about Chitty's guilt, yet somehow made the crime even more horrific. Lives destroyed not even for cold strategic purpose, but in a moment of drunken fury. We need to move, Kofi urged. Whether we try to save Dakarai or make our escape, staying here is dangerous. I nodded agreement. My presence will be missed soon. I've arranged transport, a cargo truck leaving for the capital tonight. The driver is trustworthy. She provided details of the rendezvous point. But you don't have much time. As I prepared to leave, Amara stopped her with a question. Why now? After 7 years as his wife. I turned back, her composure cracking further. Because I'm pregnant. Her hand moved instinctively to her abdomen. I refuse to raise a child in the shadow of what the Okoros have done. My child will not inherit their legacy of blood. After I departed, Amara and Kofi debated their next move intensely. We should take the transport out, Kofi argued. Get the evidence to your international contacts. That's the strategic play. While Dakarai suffered for helping us unknowingly, Amara countered. Where's the justice in that? Justice requires survivors, Kofi insisted. If we're captured or killed trying to save him, all the evidence means nothing. Amara paced a decrepit church, torn between mission and morality. We divide the evidence, she decided finally. You take half to the rendezvous point. I'll attempt to extract Dakarai. That's suicide, Kofi protested. The processing facility will be heavily guarded. Not as heavily as their active operations. It's been decommissioned for years, skeleton security at best. Her security assessment hadn't been entirely a cover. She knew the weaknesses in Okoro's operation. I created contingency plans for every facility when I arrived. I just need to implement one. Kofi recognized the determination in her expression. You won't be deterred, will you? Would you be, if it were your brother being tortured in your place? The reference to his long-missing sibling struck home. After a lengthy silence, Kofi sighed. Neither of us goes alone. We extract Dakari together, then make for the rendezvous. Higher risk, but better chances of success. She nodded agreement. We move at dusk. The old processing facility stood isolated from the main operation, its outdated equipment abandoned when newer technology rendered it obsolete. As twilight deepened into night, Amara and Kofi surveyed the building from a concealed position in the surrounding scrubland. 2 guards at the main entrance, Kofi noted. Another patrol in the perimeter. Minimal lighting on the north side. Amara checked her weapon, one of 2 she'd managed to retain during their escape. Dakari will likely be held in the former administration section. Concrete construction, fewer windows, more privacy for interrogation. Your security consultant experience is proving useful, Kofi remarked. It wasn't just a cover. I am qualified, just with different motivations than my clients realized. They moved silently through the gathering darkness, using the facility's structural weaknesses, the very vulnerabilities Amara had identified in her assessment, to approach unseen. At the north wall, a ventilation duct provided access to the building's interior. I'll go first, Amara whispered. Cover our exit route. The narrow duct led to a processing room filled with dormant machinery, dust-covered and forgotten. Amara navigated through the shadows, guided by the facility schematic she'd memorized during her security review. Distant voices led her toward the administration wing. As she approached, the voices grew clearer, one pleading, one coldly questioning. She recognized the latter immediately. Chidi Okoro, your continued resistance is pointless, he was saying. We know you helped the security consultant access restricted areas. The only question is whether you were aware of her true purpose. I told you, came Dakari's pained reply. I was assigned to assist her. I followed orders. A sharp sound, impact against flesh, followed by a muffled cry. Orders from whom? Chidi demanded. Who authorized your specific assignment to Ms. Diallo? Through a cracked door, Amara assessed the scene. Dakari was bound to a chair, bloodied but conscious. Chidi stood before him. 2 security guards positioned nearby. Worse, on a table lay familiar equipment. Amara's specialized surveillance devices, discovered and confiscated. She retreated to relay the information to Kofi, who had followed her inside against their plan. Direct confrontation is too risky, she concluded. We need a diversion. Kofi indicated the facility's obsolete systems. The old chemical storage area still has residual compounds, volatile ones. A controlled reaction could create enough chaos for extraction. Without harming Dakari, Amara emphasized. Of course. They moved to the chemical storage room, where Kofi quickly assessed the abandoned materials. These were never properly disposed of. Regulatory oversight was minimal when this facility was operational. He began combining compounds. This will create smoke and noise, not destruction. 5 minutes until reaction. They positioned themselves near the administration wing, waiting for the diversion. When the first explosion rocked the facility, alarms that hadn't been activated in years blared to life. The security guards emerged from the interrogation room, leaving Chidi alone with Dakari. Go, Amara instructed Kofi. Get him out. I'll cover. As Kofi moved toward Dakari, Amara found herself an unexpected opportunity. Through the confusion, she entered an adjoining office, Chidi's temporary command center. His laptop sat open, unlocked his haste to investigate the disturbance. A minute with that device could yield more evidence than days of surveillance. Inserting a data extraction tool disguised as a standard USB device, she initiated a complete download of its contents. The progress bar crawled forward agonizingly slowly as shouts and alarms continued outside. Through the doorway, she saw Kofi freeing Dakari from his restraints. But as they turned to escape, a figure appeared in the corridor. Chidi Okoro, returning earlier than anticipated. Without hesitation, Amara stepped into view, weapon raised. "Freeze," she commanded. Chitty stopped, eyes widening with recognition. Not Lamar Diallo, the security consultant, but something deeper. Something from 15 years ago. "Okafor," he breathed. "The daughter. It is you." "Step aside," she ordered, gesturing for Kofi and Dakarai to move past him. "This doesn't have to end violently." "It already did," Chitty replied, a chilling smile spreading across his face. 15 years ago. His hand moved slightly, reaching for something. Amara tensed, preparing to fire. "I wouldn't," came a new voice from behind Chitty. My Okoro stood in the corridor, her own weapon trained on her husband. "Step aside, Chitty." Confusion flashed across his features. What are you?" "Helping justice find its way," she replied evenly. For once. The standoff stretched for agonizing seconds before Chitty's expression hardened into calculation. "You're making a mistake, wife. One you won't survive." "Maybe," Mai acknowledged, "but it's my choice to make." Finally, as Kofi and Dakarai edged past, Chitty lunged suddenly, not at them, but at Mai, the weapon discharged in the struggle, the sound deafening in confined space. Both figures collapsed to the floor as Amara rushed forward. Mai's shot had struck Chitty in the shoulder, painful but not fatal. He writhed on the floor, cursing, while Mai scrambled away from him. "Go!" Mai urged them. "Security will swarm this place in minutes. I'll delay them." "Come with us," Amara offered impulsively. Mai shook her head. "I have my own path out, and my testimony will be more valuable if I remain." "Go!" As they fled to the facility's rear exit, an explosion larger than their planned diversion rocked the building. Chitty's security team had discovered the chemical reaction and attempted to neutralize it, with catastrophic results. Fire spread rapidly through the outdated structure. Once clear of the immediate danger, they paused to regroup in the darkness. Dakarai, weakened but mobile, leaned heavily on Kofi. "The rendezvous point is 3 kilometers east," Kofi noted. "Can you make it?" Dakarai nodded determinedly. As they moved through the night, Amara glanced back at the burning facility. Fire again, the element that had claimed her family, now provided their cover. There was symmetry in it, though not satisfaction. Not yet. The data extraction device contained valuable intelligence, and Mai's drive promised more. Combined with Kofi's collected evidence, they had the foundation for exposing the Okoro's crimes. But Chitty remained alive, and the general untouched. Justice remained incomplete. More troubling was the growing realization that their mission had expanded beyond her personal quest. Dakarai had suffered from merely associating with them. Mai had risked everything to help them. Others remained under the Okoro's brutal control. The responsibility weighed heavily on Amara. They reached the rendezvous point with minutes to spare, an unmarked intersection where a cargo truck idled. The driver, as promised, asked no questions as they climbed aboard. As the vehicle rumbled to life, beginning the journey toward the capital and potential safety, Amara stared back at the distant glow of the burning facility. 15 years of preparation had culminated not in resolution, but in new complexity. She had exposed herself to her enemy, gained allies, and acquired evidence. But at what cost? And what would justice truly require? The old processing facility disappeared from view as the truck rounded a bend in the road. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the next phase of a mission that had evolved beyond vengeance into something more profound, a reckoning not just for her family, but for an entire community suffering under tyranny. In the darkness of the truck's cargo area, Amara made a silent vow. This was not the end. It was merely the beginning of the true confrontation. Did Mai survive the chaos at the facility? Will Amara and her allies reach safety with their evidence? If you're desperate to know what happens next, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment. Who do you think will face Chitty in the final showdown? The final chapter reveals a twist no one saw coming. Share this video and turn on notifications. The conclusion will leave you breathless. The capital city sprawled before them, a stark contrast to the mining region they fled 3 weeks earlier. From the balcony of their safe house apartment, Amara watched the morning traffic flow through crowded streets, citizens moving freely without the oppressive shadow of the Okoros. Behind her, the safe house had transformed into an operations center. Kofi and Dakari worked alongside two international journalists Amara had cultivated as contacts during her years abroad. Laptops displayed the evidence they meticulously compiled: financial records of bribes and illegal transactions, security footage of intimidation and violence, testimony from victims, and documentation of environmental crimes. The evidence is compelling, Bernard, the French journalist, confirmed, especially the files from Chitty's laptop. These offshore accounts directly linked General Okoro to government officials who approved mining permits without environmental review. And the video testimony from my Okoro arrived this morning, added Inez, his American colleague. She confirmed everything, including Chitty's confession about burning your family's home. Amara turned from the window. Is she safe? In protective custody at the French embassy, Bernard assured her, seeking asylum for herself and her unborn child. A small victory amid the larger struggle. Maya had survived and chosen a different path for her future. The evidence package goes to international authorities tomorrow, Inez continued. The UN Special Prosecutor has agreed to review it personally, given the human rights implications. Once filed, media outlets worldwide will break the story simultaneously. The Okoros won't go quietly, Kofi warned. They've survived scrutiny before. Not like this, Bernard countered. The documentation is too comprehensive, the witness testimony too consistent. Even their political connections can't shield them from this level of exposure. Amara should have felt triumph. 15 years of planning culminating in the justice she had sought. Yet something remained unresolved. The evidence would damage the Okoros, perhaps even imprison them eventually, but legal processes were slow. Meanwhile, they remained free, potentially able to eliminate witnesses or destroy additional evidence. There's one piece missing, she said finally. A direct confession from Chitty Okoro himself, acknowledging his crimes publicly. Without it, he'll claim the evidence was fabricated, witnesses coerced. We have Mai's testimony, Inez reminded her, which he'll dismiss as a vengeful wife's lies. Amara shook her head. I want him to admit what he did, to my family and to everyone else, in his own words for the world to hear. That's impossible, Bernard argued. He'd never willingly confess. Not willingly, Amara agreed, but necessarily. Her tone caused the others to exchange concerned glances. What are you planning? Kofi asked. A confrontation, she replied. On my terms, not his. News reached them that afternoon through their information network. General Okoro had summoned regional officials to the mining compound for an emergency meeting. The official agenda concerned economic stabilization following the industrial sabotage incident, but their sources indicated the true purpose was managing the growing whispers of corruption and human rights abuses. This is our opportunity, Amar determined. All key players in one location, including both Okoros. You can't seriously be considering returning there, Dakari protested. Security will be unprecedented, which is why they won't expect it. Amara unfolded architectural plans of the compound's main conference center. During my security assessment, I identified weaknesses even Chitty doesn't know exist, and I installed systems he never found. She revealed her strategy, a daring infiltration during the meeting itself, utilizing maintenance tunnels beneath the conference center that had been improperly secured during construction. Her hidden surveillance devices, still operational in the building systems, would allow her to broadcast any confession she obtained directly to the journalists' network. This is a suicide mission, Kofi argued. Even if you reach Chitty, you'd never escape alive. My survival isn't the priority, Amara stated with unsettling calm. Exposure is. There has to be another way, Inez insisted, but Amara's mind was set. 15 years of purpose couldn't be resolved through proxy justice alone. She needed to face her family's killer directly, to make him acknowledge what he had done, not just in documents filed with distant courts, but to her face. Despite their objections, the others recognized her determination. Reluctantly, they helped refine the plan, identifying entry points, security patterns, and contingency options. Kofi insisted on accompanying her, His knowledge of the compound's personnel would be crucial. Doc or I would coordinate remotely, having memorized security rotations during his employment. The journalist would stand ready to broadcast whatever transpired. If this fails, Bernard cautioned, we still release everything tomorrow. Your mission continues even if I don't, Amara finished. I understand. That night, as final preparations were made, Amara sat alone in her room. From a hidden compartment in her luggage, she withdrew the only possession she had salvaged from her childhood, a simple wooden bracelet her father had carved for her 8th birthday, just weeks before the fire. She slipped it onto her wrist, a talisman of memory and purpose. Justice or vengeance. The line had blurred over 15 years of grief and determination. Tomorrow would bring clarity, one way or another. The mining compound was transformed for the general's meeting. Additional security checkpoints, military vehicles at strategic positions, snipers visible on rooftops. Beneath this display of force, Amar and Kofi approached through the one avenue left unguarded, the wastewater drainage system that emptied into a nearby river. The maintenance tunnels were, as Amar remembered from her assessment, neglected, minimally monitored, perfect for infiltration. Using the building schematics memorized during her consultancy, she led them through the labyrinth beneath the conference center, pausing at junction points to check security camera feeds on her specialized device. The meeting has started, she whispered, observing the assembled officials on the screen. General Okoro at the head table, Chitty to his right. Kofi checked his watch. 30 minutes until the maintenance crew changes shifts. That's our window to reach the upper level. They continued to the tunnels until reaching an access point near the conference center's private offices, the location where attendees had stored personal items before the meeting. Amar's intelligence suggested Chitty would return here during a scheduled break to take medication for a chronic condition. As predicted, the break was called. On her monitoring device, Amara watched Chitty excuse himself from the main conference room. Moments later, his steps echoed in the corridor above them. Ready? She asked Kofi, who nodded grimly. They emerged silently from the access panel. Securing it behind them, the private office suite was empty save for Chitty, who stood with his back to them, retrieving pills from his briefcase. Hello, Chitty, Amara said quietly. He froze, then slowly turned. Recognition dawned immediately. Not Amara Diallo, the security consultant, but Vidana Okafor, the girl who had escaped the flames 15 years earlier. You, he breathed, reaching toward an interior pocket. Kofi stepped forward, weapon raised. Don't. Chitty's hand stilled, his expression shifting from shock to calculation. So the rumors were true, and Okafor survived. His eyes narrowed. You've gone to extraordinary lengths for this meeting. What do you want? Money? Revenge? Justice? Amar replied evenly. Acknowledgement of what you did. To my family, to Kofi's brother, to countless others. A cold smile spread across Chitty's face. Justice? There's no justice here. Only power. My father controls this region absolutely. Whatever evidence you think you have will never see daylight. It already has, Kofi informed him. International prosecutors received everything this morning. The only question is whether your confession accompanies it. Doubt flickered briefly in Chitty's eyes before his arrogance reasserted itself. Confession? You overestimate your position. In minutes, security will check this room. What then? Will you kill me? That's not justice. That's the vengeance you claim to reject. No one needs to die today. Amara responded, activating her device. Not if you cooperate. And why would I do that? Because I'm broadcasting this conversation live to journalists worldwide, she revealed, turning the screen to show the active transmission. Your words are already reaching an audience beyond your father's influence. Panic flickered across Chitty's features as he recognized the transmission indicators. Technology he himself had used for secure communications. His security consultant had indeed learned his systems well. A clever trap, he acknowledged, composure returning. But meaningless. I admit nothing. Not even to save your father? Amara countered. Our evidence implicates him in every crime. His political career, his legacy, his freedom, all finished. Unless what? Chitty demanded, interest piqued despite himself. Unless you take responsibility for your own actions. Confirm that certain decisions, like burning my family alive, were yours alone against your father's protocols. Amara had gambled on Chitty's psychology. His desire to protect his father, the man whose approval he had always sought, combined with his pride in his own ruthless efficiency. Chitty's expression revealed the internal calculation. And if I were to clarify certain operational decisions, what then? The evidence against your father becomes more circumstantial, focused on financial rather than violent crimes. His political survival becomes possible, if not assured. It was a partial truth. The general would still face serious charges, but Chitty's confession would indeed shift the narrative's focus. More importantly, it would provide closure for countless victims. Before Chitty could respond, heavy footsteps approached in the corridor. Security, earlier than anticipated. Decide quickly, Kofi urged, weapon still trained on Chitty. Something shifted in Chitty's expression, resignation mixed with strange pride. Very well, a business negotiation, then. He straightened his posture, addressing the recording device directly. Certain actions taken to secure mining rights in the Okoro region were my initiative, not my father's policy. As he spoke, detailing incidents with cold precision, Amara felt a complicated emotion rise within her. Not satisfaction, not even vindication, but a weighted relief. When he reached the night of the fire, his tone changed subtly. The Okafor family's elimination was not sanctioned as executed. My father authorized pressure tactics only. I exceeded parameters. The deaths were my responsibility alone. The admission came without remorse, yet its significance was profound. On screens across the world, Chidi Okoro confessed a murder and countless other crimes. The footsteps outside paused at the door. A voice called Chidi's name. "In here," he responded, a calculating smile returning. With uninvited guests, security burst into the room, weapons drawn. Kofi reacted instantly, overturning a heavy desk for cover while returning fire. Amara secured the transmission device, ensuring confession was safely delivered regardless of what followed. "Surrender now," the security leader ordered as additional forces flooded the corridor outside. Amara and Kofi exchanged glances, both recognizing the impossible odds. Yet before either could respond, new sounds erupted from beyond the office. Gunfire, shouting, confusion. Chidi's security team received urgent communications, their expressions shifting from confidence to concern. "Sir," one addressed Chidi, "the compound is under attack. Military units at the main gate have turned against us. They're letting protesters in." Disbelief crossed Chidi's features. Whose authority? General Okoro's chief of staff. Claims the general himself ordered it. But the general is still in the conference room, sir. Understanding dawned in Amara's mind. Mai's final maneuver. The evidence she provided hadn't only gone to journalists, but to military commanders as well, apparently with forged orders from the general. Chaos had been unleashed as a diversion. The security team hesitated, caught between conflicting priorities: protect Chidi or respond to the larger threat. Their moment of indecision provided the opportunity Amara and Kofi needed. They moved in tandem, disarming the nearest guards and fighting their way toward the emergency exit Amara had identified during her security assessment. Behind them, Chidi shouted orders, his voice diminishing as they navigated through service corridors and maintenance passages. The compound had descended into pandemonium, security forces confused by contradictory commands, protesters flooding through breached gates, military units with unclear allegiances. "This way," Kofi directed, guiding them toward a maintenance garage where vehicles might provide escape. They emerged into daylight to find the compound transformed. What had begun as an elite meeting had erupted into a public reckoning. Local villagers, emboldened by the military's apparent stand-down, swarmed the facility that had dominated their lives for decades. On mounted screens in the central courtyard, hacked through Amara's planted devices, Chidi's confession played in a continuous loop, visible to everyone. As they navigated the chaos, a familiar figure appeared before them. General Okoro himself, surrounded by a protective detail, attempting to reach an evacuation helicopter. The general's face was ashen as he watched his son's confession broadcast across the compound. Their eyes met across the turbulent courtyard. Amara Okafor and General Okoro, connected by a history of violence and oppression. Recognition dawned in his expression, followed by something unexpected: resignation. No words were exchanged, none were needed. Justice had found its way, not through Amara's hands alone, but through the collective will of those who had suffered. The general turned away, his escape route cut off by advancing protesters, his authority evaporating with each repetition of his son's confession. Amara and Kofi secured a vehicle and navigated through the compound's disintegrating perimeter. Behind them, 15 years of tyranny faced its reckoning. The Okoro's reign was ending not in a single act of vengeance, but in a community's awakening. 1 month later, Amara stood on the land where her family home had once stood. The charred ruins had long since been reclaimed by nature, but memory remained vivid. Beside her, Kofi placed a simple marker, the first of many to commemorate those lost to the Okoro's ambition. The International Tribunal has formally charged them both, he informed her. 17 counts against the general, 32 against Chitty. Their accounts have been frozen, assets seized. And Amara asked, granted asylum in France. Her testimony continues to expose collaborators in the government. Kofi paused. She's named her child Hope. Amara nodded, appreciating the symbolism. And the land returned to community control, as you requested. The mining operation continues, but under local ownership with international oversight. Profits now fund infrastructure, education, healthcare. The transformation had been swift once the evidence became public. With the Okoro's influence shattered, reforms that seemed impossible for decades materialized in weeks. The journey toward healing had begun. What will you do now? Kofi asked. Your mission is accomplished. Amara considered the question. For 15 years, justice for her family had defined her existence. Its achievement left an unfamiliar emptiness. There are other communities suffering under similar oppression, she replied finally. Other powerful men who believe themselves beyond accountability. You're continuing as a security consultant? Kofi seemed surprised. I thought that was just a cover. It was, but the skills are real and uniquely valuable for exposing corruption. She turned to face him. There's a need for people who can navigate between worlds, who understand both security systems and the human cost of their misuse. A security consultant who provides true security for the vulnerable, not just the powerful. Kofi nodded appreciatively. An interesting reversal of profession. Will you join me, she asked. Your knowledge of operations, your experience, we'd make an effective team. He considered briefly before extending his hand. Partners in justice, then. As they sealed their agreement, Amara felt her father's wooden bracelet against her wrist, a connection to the past that now pointed toward the future. The justice she had sought for her family had expanded into something larger, a commitment to systemic change, to protection of the vulnerable, to accountability for the powerful. On the grave of her personal tragedy, something new had grown, purpose beyond vengeance, justice beyond personal healing. The fire that defined her life had forged her into something unexpected. Not just a survivor, but a defender. She knelt, placing her hand on the earth where her family had lived and died. It's done, she whispered to their memory. And it's just beginning. Rising, she looked toward the community being reborn around them. Buildings under construction, fields being replanted, people moving with newfound dignity. The landscape of her childhood was transforming once more, this time towards something hopeful. Justice had required 15 years of determination, sacrifice, and courage. Its fruits would nourish generations to come. Wow, what an incredible journey of justice and transformation. If Adana's story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. This tale might be finished, but there are so many more incredible stories waiting for you. Drop a comment. What was your favorite moment in Adana's quest for justice? Did you expect that ending? Share this video with someone who appreciates powerful stories of triumph over adversity. turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Until next time, this is African Tales by Zion, bringing you stories that inspire, challenge, and celebrate the indomitable human spirit.